So we've been together for 6 weeks in the coaching, talk development process virtually, right? So, I mean, we've had a lot of time together. What was that like for you? Digging into your story and me asking you to go deeper, go a little deeper, you know, I mean, because I want to push the boundaries with everybody a little bit. What was that like for you going through it? And Consuela specifically, like, you were like, is my story big enough, right? So we had that challenge, but there's no size comparison in story, right? So what was that like
so that is the thing. I'm an early joiner. So when Wendy's like, I've got this new stage, I'm like, ooh, I want to be on it. And then she talked about what was going to be on it, and I was like, oh, I don't think my story really qualifies for that, right? And it's not really, you know, who wants to hear my story? So I'm in the second group because of that, right? Because I paused a little bit, and still had a lot of thoughts around, like, I don't know who's going to want to hear my story. And Wendy is amazing at helping you work through that and to bring things out. So some parts of my story were not originally in there. And when we were doing the coaching, and I said, okay, that's the part I have written. And I'm like, yeah, the rest of it is this, this, and this. And she's like, well, that needs to be in there. So she really brings that out of you and gets you in touch with your story in a way that's comfortable, that you feel empowered to share. And regardless of what your story is, it's meant for this stage. And Wendy really helped me to get to that place. So I thank you.
I think for me, you know, I've spoken before. I like public speaking. I love making people laugh and engaging with people. And I knew this story, and I'm writing this book, so I kind of knew the vibe of it, but I really was having a hard time figuring out when it all changed was, and I couldn't pinpoint it. And Wendy had a real niche of listening to me ramble and kind of go all over the place, and she was able to pinpoint that Instagram moment as the when story, which I never would have. I didn't even think that was a big deal. And it's so cool how you saw that and how it all bookended this whole story that spanned decades. It was just like, how did you do that? And I feel like I struggle, you know, I think there's a theme, like Sarah was saying, between what we heard from a lot of people about overcoming our, you know, the voices in our head and childhood trauma and taking care of others more than ourselves. And I struggle telling my own story sometimes and self-promoting and all that. And today I felt like I was telling the story of my family and breaking a generational curse and talking about God's story. And I just feel like there's a ripple effect that's going to happen from these people that are talking, and it's so powerful.
Awesome.
Yeah, for the coaching, I think one of the things that Erica touched on before was the fact that it wasn't necessarily memorized, but we needed to practice a lot because we weren't going to have, you know, I'm used to having slides and things like that. And I think that actually helped me bring out what the key moments in my story. So because I would have to practice in front of everyone, and then you would say oh, I think you should touch on this more. Because when you're practicing in front of people, it's like, oh, they get the feels in certain parts of your story, and you might not even realize how important that is, or how people need to hear that part of your story. So that part really helped me to anchor in different messages to continue to share. And then, I've never practiced for something so much in my life. And because it's I'm more of a facilitator and less of a speaker. I like to ask questions, engage the audience, and so this was a totally new experience, and I really appreciated the coaching leading up to it.
Awesome.
For the coaching part, it was really, really helpful because I was trying to take almost 50 years worth of crap and put it into 20 minutes plus on what I do now, and I did skip that part in my speech so you guys can read about it in the book. But I think that was super helpful also to take that pressure off, was that even though we didn't have slides, I'm used to teaching art classes and hands-on, right? I'm used to all of that. Mm-hmm. So actually getting up here and to just help inspire others with my words and my voice was super awesome. And just I think even not just Wendy, but like everybody in the group, when we did have our coaching calls, like if we got stuck on something, we would just chat away in the chat. What about this? What about that? And so we really leaned on each other and helped each other. So that was really nice. Yeah. So thank you.
Awesome.
I've got two things. One, I recognize, and I think this just amplifies the need for all of us to be in community. Right? We were created to be in community, and when we struggle with things or have things that we've gone through, maybe there's guilt or shame attached, it's so easy to want to isolate. And that's kind of where we all shrink back into. But the truth is, the healing is in the community. And so, you know, we all have obviously very personal things to share, whether it's personal, professional, but together we were able to help facilitate more and more healing. And so I really loved that. The other thing that I wanted to just point out was that even coaches need coaches. And so I've been a speaker for a long time, and it's always easy to write things that are for professional purposes. But when it comes to writing things that are more personal and create vulnerability, it can be really challenging. But I want to just thank you. You do a really great job of continuing to open that space for us, create safety to dig and really find, like some of the girls have already said, really find the important parts of our story that everyone needs to hear. And you do a great job of being so flexible, yet like, okay, come on, let's do more. Okay, let's go a little deeper. And it's really beautiful and just fantastic. And so I just want to just thank you so much for the way you show up authentically and the way you have shared with us your personal things and create that safe space for us. So if anyone out there listening or watching this later on is wondering, could I do that? Should I do that? Or you feel this pull, this is the space you've been looking for. Wendy is the coach you've been looking for to keep moving your story forward, because someone needs to hear your story.